House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who did not rule out jumping back into the speakership race today. Sir, thank you very much, Kevin McCarthy. Good to have you with us, Congressman. Why did you decide to speak out so forcefully on this issue today, given that you are no longer Speaker of the House, sir?
If you watched, every single year I've been in Congress, I have led the freshman Republicans over to Israel. I made it in a bipartisan as well. My first trip as Speaker was to Israel to speak at the 75th anniversary at the Knesset of the creation of their country, only the second American Speaker to do that. I know that there's no greater ally than we have as Israel. The atrocities that I have watched, and Martha, I've got to tell you, Fox is reporting, and Trey Yanks is probably one of the best reporting I have seen live what is happening right now. But we cannot stay silent. The president cannot put a lid when the world is watching. What we have found is this new administration, the appeasement of paying for hostages, has made it more emboldened to take Americans. We now have 9 Americans dead. This cannot be Afghanistan. We cannot leave one American behind. We should also stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel. Supply the weapons they need. You know, the fear I have, I've been to every part of this. I've watched the Iron Dome there. What the Hamas will do is send dumb rockets at the beginning to try to wipe out all the Iron Dome has, then send precision guided. We need to make sure they have all the weaponry they need so it won't be that way. And we need to go after, because in this new administration, Iran is financially stronger. They're funding more terrorism around the world. If you look at the foreign world currencies holding, they only had in 2020 $4 billion. Now they have $70 billion. They gave us assurances, they would tell us, when they provided that $60 billion, that they could always pull it back. They should freeze it today while it's in Qatar. They should put sanctions on their oil production. When Biden first took office, they were only producing 400,000 barrels a day. Today, they're producing 3 million barrels, at oil being $100 a barrel. This is where they're becoming stronger and funding. And for the idea that our Secretary of State doesn't know if Iran was involved and the Wall Street Journal knows more, we need to reassess our own intel failure here and make sure we secure our own border of what's happening.
We're going to ask about that in just a moment. Obviously, it's been a rough week in the House of Representatives, and, you know, Matt Gaetz is speaking out again, saying that, wondering, you know, why you're inserting.
I don't think that other countries think about Kevin McCarthy's speakership quite as much as Kevin McCarthy does. There is no ask from Israel that we are unable to meet because it's going to take us a few days to pick a new speaker.
So you described a lack of leadership right now based on the shakeup last week. Why is that there? I mean, I know you think that it feels like the Speaker pro tempore ought to be able to do anything that you could have done in that spot. That seems like the safest place for the country to be. And are you considering putting your name back in to run again?
Look, the conference decides all that. This isn't about the speakership. This is about where we're currently serving. Watch what happened in Israel, where 9 Americans died, 800 Israelis. That's the equivalent of 30,000 Americans if it happened here. This is happening because of weak leadership. The president puts a lid on. Where is anybody else? I am still a member of Congress. I understand the relationship between America and Israel. I have dear friends in the leadership there and living there. And I'm not going to sit back and do nothing. What I have found what's going on, if we had listened to Matt Gaetz, we would be in a government shutdown right now. So our own troops wouldn't be being paid. What strength would we have in the world then? If 8 people want to side with all the Democrats for their own personal beliefs, that's fine. But I'm elected to go serve, and I'm not going to sit back and watch what's happening around the world and be quiet because the rest of leadership won't.
You point out all of the time that you've spent there, your relationships there. If asked to run again by the conference, will you?
Look, that's a conference decision. They could decide which way they're going to go. For this conference, look, I'm a conservative that wants to govern. But if we have a majority and 96% want to go one way, but 4% gets to decide what happens, that's not a majority. And the idea that Matt Gaetz is going to divide a Gaetz, a Mace, and a Pelosi decision on who's going to be our speaker, that's wrong. But the conference will decide that. But this has nothing to do with that. Look at the world in which we're living. We got this axis of evil from Iran, Russia, and China. 3 years ago, under the Trump administration, we did not have war in Europe. We did not have war in Israel. We had peace. We didn't have oil at $100 a barrel. We should sanction Iran's oil And we should reproduce that in America where we have the capability and it'd be a more environmentally sound. Why don't we make America strong? We got an open border where we have caught 151 people on the FBI terrorist watch list. In 2019, that number was 0. They're coming across our border from 160 different countries. What are they doing? Do they have any cells here? Who are they talking to? I know in California, we had 2 people coming from Yemen. Yeah. What do they want to do to us? And we have an administration that goes silent. They can have a barbecue, but the president can't talk to the world when they're looking for leadership?
What can be done to give the Speaker pro tempore more power? Is that something that you're going to spearhead? And can that rule be changed right now, given what's going on and the urgent need for leadership from Congress and from the White House?
Look, this is new territory. This was only put in after 9/11. But I would believe if this was put in after 9/11, wanting to make sure someone can serve as Speaker, they should have the power to serve as Speaker till the new person is elected. I actually believe the individual should be able to move. The challenge here is
that way.
We can't do anything until we elect a Speaker. Now, I have a number of members that didn't want to have a continuing resolution, a number of members who didn't want to vote for the appropriations. But because I kept government open, 8 of them decided they could go with the Democrats and stymie our entire government for their own personal beliefs when we've got the world. Look, if you look at what's happening in the world today, it looks a lot like the 1930s. We've got challenges with this axis of evil. We've got war in different locations. We've got 5 embassies that had to be removed Americans. We've got Americans dead, being held hostage. We've got a president that puts a lid on it by noon. This is not a time for people to sit back. This is a time to show leadership, be calm, but really give the right direction. We should show the world that we stand with Israel, that we're going to fund their ability. We should be very clear that we stand with them, that Hamas has to be destroyed. Not weakened, but destroyed. We have to understand that it's coming from Iran, that there should be punishments for this. We should refreeze the money, sanction their oil production, and have America produce that oil so we're stronger and have resources.
Understood. Let me ask you this. This is a very important week for the House. So yes. Today is Monday. Do you expect that there will be a new Speaker of the House by Wednesday?
I believe we have the capability to do it. We'll come into conference tonight. We'll have our debates tomorrow. And we'll have our election on Wednesday.
And as far as right now, there are only 2 people who are in the running for that job, Steve Scalise and Jim Jordan, and not you,
exactly.
Correct?
Correct.
All right, we'll see where this goes. Former Speaker of the House, good to have you with us. Kevin McCarthy, as always. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.